So it's time for Apple to give us what it does best, a sci-fi drama that messes with our mind. This is the area that Apple TV Plus really stands out in when compared to the other streaming platforms, and with Dark Matter just being released, the complicated intrigue after only 2 episodes is already present. Following Jason, a family man who was abducted and ultimately woke up in a world that he didn't 100% recognize. The pathway back to his own reality seems to be the very thing that this show is going to be centered around, with an ending to the 2nd episode that left everything in the open and put Jason back in great danger. Let's jump into the show and break down all that there was to take away from it. Here is Dark Matter episodes 1 and 2 ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. A line in the first 2 episodes that pretty much sums up exactly what was going on was delivered by Daniella during her speech at her art exhibition. Our lives are marked by the choices we make, and our choices create worlds. We simultaneously inhabit all of them. This is the best way to try and gauge some kind of understanding as to what was actually going on. We obviously saw that Jason was abducted by himself in a mask on the night that Ryan was awarded the Pavia Award. And from there he woke up in a world that was the same but completely different at the same time. Within his life, he got to a point where he stopped chasing the dream, and at that moment, that was where the alternative reality was then created, and the Jason that did pursue the dream and went on to have a wide amount of success in the industry continued on in a completely different path. This is why Jason 1 had children, married Daniella, and was unfamiliar with the fame when he woke up in the new world, but Jason 2 had none of that family. There were subtle hints to the fact that there were 2 different realities with the same people existing going on during the episode, and a lot of this was down to certain things that were in the background of shots. For example, the taproom sign was a completely different color in both of the realities, something which got a key focus. Plus, the artwork was quite important too. For example, there would often be artwork that would be mirrored on opposite sides of the canvas, sometimes even in different colors as well, almost to show that it was 2 of the same thing, but there were slight differences. Plus, in the room that Jason 1 woke up in, there was artwork that was on the wall which also had 2 of the same thing as well. In Jason 2's house, there was a figure which had 3 of the same faces, something which does make me think that there could be a 3rd Jason that could enter the picture at some point. Plus, it was interesting that the house number that Jason lived in was 44, a number which consists of 2 4s, almost mirroring again. So the hints were there from the off. Within Jason 2's world, which Jason 1 was now inhabiting, after looking at the research that he found, he realized that the invention that he was looking to make all of those years ago was the very thing that Jason 2 created. And this was by him spending his time in the sterile room and working. This invention was the large box that essentially allowed him to travel between the different realities, the ones that get created at every moment a new decision gets made. However, it seems as though despite being able to create the very thing that his heart desired when he was younger, something which meant that he went on to found a huge company and had success, fame and fortune, that wasn't what was making him happy. So instead, Jason 2 used that very invention to seek out the life and pathway that he wished that he had taken. It seems as though Jason 2 regrets the path that he went down in stepping away from Daniella when she was pregnant and choosing to prioritize work over the love of his life. With Jason 2 inhabiting Jason 1's world and seeking out Daniella immediately, it seems like that is the main reason for him doing so. Plus, there's the strange goings on at the company where he almost seems to be a hostage to his own company and the work that they're doing. But I feel it was more about chasing that life that he wished that he'd been able to lead all of those years ago. I personally don't think that Jason 2 is going to be able to function in the reality that he found for that long. Daniella seems to be happy with this new, confident Jason that she has in the house, but with him not knowing the simplest of details like which toothbrush to use or where the coffee goes, something which is inconsequential, there will probably come a time where he'll slip up and something will go wrong. One thing that I thought was interesting that wasn't really touched on that much but had a large focus in episode 1 of the show was Schrodinger's cat. Schrodinger's cat is a thought experiment which demonstrates the idea that tiny particles can be in 2 states at once until they're observed. For example, the imagining of a cat being in a box with something in it that might kill it. Until the box is opened and you take a look, the cat is both alive and dead at the same time. So it means that an object like a particle or an atom that adheres to quantum rules doesn't have a reality that can be pinned down until it's actually measured. So unless it's properly observed, it's in 2 different states at one time. Death was teased quite a lot throughout the first episode, with Jason and his son almost going through a red light and getting into a traffic accident. and also with Jason nearly being hit by a taxi. So I thought that the show was going to be going down that kind of route, but the theory still makes sense with both Jasons, because right now they're in two different states and it's something that doesn't actually exist until they're seen together. Right at the end of the episode, we saw that Jason 1 was still staying at Daniella's house, the Daniella who went on to have a successful career in art. But there was a knock at the door, and once Jason opened it, Daniella was killed and Jason was abducted again. But this time by the people that worked for his company. They were wary over the secrets that Jason could potentially spill about the experiments that were going on behind the walls of the building. So it does make me question what secrets they've got to hide. With Daniella being dead in this reality, that does leave question marks over how Jason is going to react, because he's now lost the only ally that he had whilst navigating the familiar yet unfamiliar territory. My review of the episodes. I actually really enjoyed the first two episodes of the show. We've had a lot of sci-fi from Apple recently, but I think this one feels so original, and even though it's complex at its core, it's quite easy to follow and to digest. One of my big problems with Constellation was the performances by the cast. They didn't really draw me in and I wasn't really immersed within the world, but this one feels completely different. The idea of realities being formed the moment you make an important decision and putting such emphasis and weight behind decisions in your life, which do have massive implications, is a really thought-provoking subject. Joel Edgerton was really good in these episodes as Jason as well. I've not seen him in much for a little while, but this feels like a role that he's really going to own. He's essentially playing two different characters, as are most of the cast, but the sheer difference in the personalities that he has are so distinguishable, and it's really enjoyable to watch. As with most Apple TV shows, this one looks super glossy and is shot really nicely. Its repeated motif of the click, which signifies to us that we're transitioning through the different realities, is something which is really smart, and the audible cue was a good way of having it happen. Dark Matter is based on the 2016 novel of the same name by Blake Crouch, and Blake Crouch actually created this TV series as well. I've not read the book, but it's very highly rated, and it feels like that's something that's migrated across to the other way that this story is being told. The stakes feel high as Jason is the only person who truly knows what's going on, and himself alone is the only person that's going to be able to get back to the reality that he calls home. The home that he once grew complacent with and maybe questioned what it would have been like if he had have had the success that he always dreamed of. So with him needing to find a way back home, find the box, and then get back to his family, I'm intrigued to see how he's going to do it. With this being an 8-episode series, I'm really intrigued to see where it's going to go, because if it does continue on in this direction, then I think this show could be something great. So, there you have it, Dark Matter episodes 1 and 2, ending explained. If you want to see more videos on the latest TV series and movies, then click on the card in the top corner, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. I'll be covering the entirety of this series, so be sure to come back every Wednesday to get a new episode breakdown. What did you think of the first episode? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for tuning into the video, and I'll see you in the next one.